It was the way he laughed, head tilted back, eyes squinting against the sun, that did it. That laugh didn't belong to someone pretending. It was too open, too unguarded. And somehow, it made everything inside me ache. We were alone at the camp, the others off chasing waterfalls or carving their names into tree bark like teenagers. Lucas had stayed behind with me, said he wasn't feeling up for hiking. Neither was I, truth be told, but I hadn't expected the quiet between us to feel so loud. He was standing barefoot on the riverbank, shirt discarded somewhere behind him, shorts clinging damply to his hips. He was all golden skin and freckles, muscles soft in the way that made you look twice. I'd looked 3 times. Maybe more. I told myself it didn't mean anything, that it was just the heat or the way the jungle pressed in too close, too full of sound and scent and color. But the truth was quieter. More dangerous. I couldn't stop watching him. And when he turned, catching me mid-glance, something passed between us, just a flicker. A stillness. Like he saw the truth I hadn't meant to show. We didn't say anything. But I swear, in that breathless moment, he didn't look away either. And that was the beginning of everything I never expected that I hadn't meant to be there. The jungle trip had been my brother Alex's idea, a birthday weekend away from the city, from screens and schedules and the low, constant hum of stress. I almost didn't come. I'd already prepared my excuses. Too much work, too little sleep, not a fan of bugs or dirt or pretending to enjoy things that exhaust me. But Alex has a way of getting under my skin. It'll be good for you, he'd said, his tone light, like he wasn't worried, but I knew he was. You need fresh air. Real sunlight. You've been ghosting everyone since New Year's. So I agreed. Out of guilt. Out of boredom. Out of some half-hearted need to feel something. What he hadn't mentioned was that Lucas would be coming. Lucas, his old college roommate. Lucas with the sun-warmed skin and lazy grin. Lucas who had always felt, to me, like someone just out of reach, too easy in his body, too comfortable in rooms I never quite fit into. I remembered him from years ago, parties at our place, him leaning against the kitchen counter with a beer, laughing with Alex about things I didn't understand. He was always kind, but never familiar. Not really. Until now. Our camp was set up in a clearing beside a shallow river, the canopy above so thick it made the daylight feel drowsy and golden. The air smelled of wet leaves, wood smoke, and something sweet I couldn't name. At night, the jungle hummed with life, frogs croaking, insects chirring, branches shifting like they were alive. It was the kind of quiet that made your thoughts feel louder. The first day was all movement, tents, firewood, unpacking gear. I kept my distance from Lucas at first, unsure of how to place him in this version of my life. He was warm with everyone, but not in a way that felt performative. He didn't try too hard. He didn't need to. I did. Even in this wild, open space, I felt like I was trying to shrink. I offered to set up the tents so I'd have something to do with my hands. When the others swam, I stayed on the rocks, flipping through a book I'd brought but couldn't focus on. I told myself I liked the solitude, but the truth was, being alone just felt safer. It wasn't like I hadn't thought about it before, about *him*, about what it might mean to look a little too long at someone like Lucas. But those thoughts were always fleeting, locked away, dulled by routine and denial. They didn't belong in the real world. And certainly not in the same tent, the same firelight. I'd learned to keep things quiet. Growing up, I was the kid who watched from the sidelines. Sensitive, they called me. Thoughtful. Polite. The kind of boy who felt too much but said too little. I learned early that wanting things, certain things, only led to confusion or worse, disappointment. I became good at pretending I didn't want anything at all. Lucas, on the other hand, moved like someone who'd never had to second-guess himself. He talked easily, laughed freely. He flirted with waiters without it seeming like flirting. He hugged with both arms. And when he looked at you, really looked, it felt like the world held still. That first evening, as we gathered around the fire, I watched him out of the corner of my eye. He sat opposite me, legs stretched out, firelight licking across his cheekbones. He had this habit of rubbing the back of his neck when he was thinking, and I caught him doing it while Alex told some ridiculous story from college. When Lucas laughed, it wasn't loud, but it was real. That laugh hit me in the chest harder than I expected. Later, after we'd eaten, he sat beside me, arms brushing lightly. He offered me a swig from his flask. Whiskey. I took it. It burned, but I didn't wince. You don't talk much, he said, not unkindly. Guess not. That's okay, he said, smiling softly. Sometimes silence says more than people realize. I didn't know what to say to that. So I said nothing. But something in me stirred. Like he'd seen a part of me I didn't realize was showing. The next morning, while Alex and his girlfriend went out exploring, Lucas and I were left at camp together. I assumed he'd want space, so I disappeared into a quiet spot by the river with my sketchbook. I hadn't drawn in months, but something about the stillness asked for it. He found me there. Not intentionally, I think he was just wandering, but he paused when he saw the pad in my lap. "You draw?" he asked, dropping to sit beside me. "Not really. I mean, sometimes." He peered at the page. I'd been sketching the treetops, the way the light filtered through them like stained glass. Nothing special. Just lines. Shapes. The suggestion of something. "It's good," he said, and I almost laughed at how genuine it sounded. We sat like that for a while. Side by side. The river chattering beside us. Sunlight pooling on his skin. His presence didn't feel like pressure. It felt easy. Comfortable, in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. But beneath it, something deeper pulsed. A quiet ache. A hope I didn't want to name. I told myself it was nothing. But I kept drawing. And he didn't leave. The jungle had a way of stretching time. Days blurred together in a haze of warmth and green, long afternoons spent swimming or napping in the shade, the air heavy with the scent of earth and moss. Every moment with Lucas started to feel like a test. How close could I be before it became too much? How long could I watch him without being caught? How many touches, laughs, shared glances would it take before something cracked? And yet, nothing changed. Not really. Except me. One night, near the end of our second day, it rained. Not the kind of soft drizzle I knew from the city, but a heavy, wild downpour that shook the leaves and drowned out even our voices. We huddled in the main tent after dinner, all four of us, playing cards and passing around a bottle of cheap rum, everyone slowly unraveling in the comfort of shared heat and damp clothes. Lucas sat beside me, his knee resting lightly against mine. Just contact. Just wait. But I felt it everywhere. He leaned in once, close enough to smell, wood smoke and sweat and something like pine, and whispered, "You okay?" His voice was soft, nearly lost in the sound of rain on canvas. I nodded, but I didn't look at him. I couldn't. Because I knew if I did, I might fall straight into him. We didn't touch more than that, but it haunted me all the same. Later that night, after the others had gone to bed, I lay awake, listening to Lucas shift in the sleeping bag beside mine. Our tent was too small, the space between us non-existent. I could hear his breathing, slow, steady, maddening. At one point, he rolled toward me. His hand brushed mine. Accidental, probably. But he didn't move it right away. Neither did I. And still, nothing was said. The next morning, I woke early. I slipped out of the tent quietly and wandered toward the river. Mist clung to the water like a secret, the world soft and grey and hushed. I sat on a rock and tried to sketch, but my hand wouldn't settle. Everything in me felt stretched thin, like a string pulled too tight. I was tired of pretending I didn't notice every time he looked at me a beat too long. Tired of feeling like I was caught in something I didn't understand but couldn't escape. Footsteps behind me. I didn't turn. Didn't expect anyone to be up yet, Lucas said. His voice still rough with sleep. Couldn't, I replied. He sat beside me, close again. Always close. I glanced over and saw he hadn't even put on a shirt. Just those same damn shorts. His skin glowed in the early light, golden and damp from the river air. He caught me looking. Didn't smile. Didn't tease. Just looked back. "You're different out here," he said after a moment. I blinked. How? Quieter, maybe. Or maybe, less guarded. My mouth went dry. "You don't really know me." "I know enough." I turned back to the water. "What does that mean?" He was quiet for a long time. I thought maybe he'd let the moment pass like all the others. But then, "It means I see you. Even when you think you're hiding." The words hit harder than I expected. It felt like something should have followed, like he was going to reach for me or say more. But he didn't. He just sat there, silent, like he'd said too much already. That day was full of small silences. When we hiked out to a cliff overlooking the valley, I found myself trailing beside Lucas again, our arms brushing as we climbed. He offered his hand once to help me over a ledge. I took it, held it too long, let go too fast. Neither of us mentioned it. Back at camp, Alex asked Lucas to help him gather wood. I stayed behind, pretending to nap. Instead, I lay in the tent, staring at the fabric ceiling, heart pounding in my chest for reasons I didn't want to name. When I heard them return, I caught the tail end of something Lucas was saying. He's quiet, yeah, but there's more going on in there than he lets on. I froze. Was he talking about me? Alex laughed in that easy way he had. You've always liked the quiet ones. I didn't hear Lucas's reply. And suddenly, I didn't know which scared me more, the idea that Lucas might feel something too, or that he didn't. That night, we were alone again. Alex and his girlfriend had decided to hike out to a nearby waterfall and camp there overnight, just for the adventure of it. They invited us along, but I made an excuse. Lucas said he didn't feel like moving camp. So it was just us. The fire burned low as night came down like velvet. Lucas sat across from me, his hands wrapped around a tin mug. The light flickered in his eyes, cast shadows across his collarbone. He looked tired, but content. Or maybe I was just projecting. I used to think I had everything figured out, he said suddenly. I looked up. Yeah. College. Work. What I wanted. Who I was. What changed? He stared into the fire. Life, I guess. Things stop making sense after a while. You start asking yourself if you're living the story you actually want, or just the one that was easiest to write. The fire crackled. I didn't move. That's heavy, I said softly. He glanced at me, eyes steady. Yeah. Sorry. No, I trailed off. Then, I think about that too. Lucas nodded like he already knew. For a while, we didn't speak. The jungle murmured around us. Crickets, distant calls of birds. The air was warm, but not stifling. I could feel my heart in my throat. He stood suddenly. Come on, he said, nodding toward the river. Let's swim. I hesitated. Now. Why not? He pulled off his shirt, like it was nothing, like this was just what people did, and turned toward the water. And like a fool, I followed. The river was colder than I expected, sharp against my skin, but freeing. We floated in silence, water up to our shoulders, the stars tangled in the treetops above us. Lucas drifted closer. Not quite touching, but near enough to feel the pull. Why are you really here? He asked. The question hung between us like smoke. I could have lied. Could have said I needed a break. That Alex insisted. That I just wanted to see the jungle. But the truth was louder. Because I didn't want to be alone, I said. He looked at me like he understood everything I wasn't saying. You're not, he said quietly. Then he reached out. Not a grab, not even a touch. Just an offering. His hand, barely breaking the water between us. I didn't take it. Not yet. But I didn't turn away either. And in that small, silent gesture, something between us shifted, unspoken, but very, very real. It happened the next night. The last night. We were leaving in the morning, back to the city, back to noise and traffic and the hum of everyday life that muffled things like this. Things that crept into the quiet only when you slowed down long enough to hear yourself think. The campfire was burning low again, casting soft gold light across Lucas's face as he poked the embers with a stick. He hadn't said much since dinner, but he didn't seem restless. If anything, he looked content. Like he'd found something here and didn't want to break it. Neither did I. I sat across from him, knees pulled to my chest, a blanket draped over my shoulders. My skin still smelled faintly of river water, and my hair had dried in a tangle I hadn't bothered to fix. I was tired, but not in a way that could be solved by sleep. Lucas glanced up. You okay? I nodded, slow. Yeah. Just, don't really want it to be over yet. He smiled faintly. Me neither. The words hung in the air longer than they should have. I looked away first, down into the flames. I wanted to say something, to break the tension, or give it meaning, but the words stuck in my throat. I keep thinking, I said finally, voice low, about when you said you see me. That night by the river. Lucas was still. Yeah. I didn't know what to say. I still don't. That's okay, he said softly. You don't have to explain yourself to me. But I did. Not for him, for me. I stared at the fire, gathering myself. I've spent so long trying not to want things, I said. Trying to keep everything inside, where it's safer. Where no one can see too much. Lucas didn't move. Just listened. And then you show up, I went on, and it's like, I can't keep it in anymore. I don't even know what this is. I just know I don't want it to end here. Silence. Then I looked up, and he was already watching me. His eyes were different now. Not teasing. Not guarded. Just open. Raw. You think I don't feel it too? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. That was all it took. I got up slowly, walked the few steps around the fire until I was standing in front of him. He looked up at me like he was holding his breath, and maybe I was too. I sat beside him, knees touching. And for a long moment, we didn't speak. Then Lucas reached for my hand, not tentative this time, not testing. Just warm and certain. His fingers laced with mine, gentle but firm. I stared down at our hands, stunned by how right it felt. How *normal star. Like we'd done this 100 times before, even though we never had. I've been trying to give you space, he said. Waiting for you to be ready. I'm not, I admitted. But I don't want to wait anymore. He smiled, and it was soft and tired and full of something that made my chest ache. You don't have to be ready all at once, he said. Just be here. With me. And then, God, it was like the air shifted. He leaned in, slow. Gave me the space to move, to pull away. But I didn't. I couldn't. Our lips met like a question. A breath. A held-back sigh. It wasn't fireworks or cinematic music. It was tender. Hesitant. A little clumsy. But it was real. And it was enough to make something inside me splinter and soften all at once. I kissed him back. There was no rush. No heat of lust or urgency. Just presence. His hand cupping the back of my neck, mine curled against his chest. The fire crackled behind us. The jungle sang softly around us. And the world, for once, felt quiet. When we pulled apart, our foreheads rested together. Neither of us spoke for a while. Then Lucas whispered, that felt like the truth. I closed my eyes. Yeah, I breathed. It did. Later, as we lay side by side in the tent, fully clothed, not touching but not distant, he reached out and found my hand in the dark again. We didn't kiss again that night. We didn't need to. Because something had changed. Not just the way I looked at him, but the way I looked at myself. He had seen me. All the parts one thought I had to hide. And still, he stayed. Still, he reached. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was pretending. I just felt real star. Seen. Wanted. Whole. The jungle woke early on our final morning. Birdsong pierced the canopy long before the light reached us. The river whispered nearby, soft and steady, as if it already missed us. Dew clung to the leaves like goodbye. Lucas and I didn't speak at first. We just packed in a kind of quiet rhythm, brushing past each other in the small tent, careful but not awkward. The silence wasn't empty. It was settled. Like something had finally exhaled between us. When we stepped out, the world was washed in pale gold. Alex and his girlfriend returned not long after, laughing about damp sleeping bags and bugs, telling stories with the easy affection of people who knew where they stood with each other. I watched them and wondered if we looked like that now, if something had shifted in the way Lucas looked at me, or the way I stood a little closer without thinking. Probably not. Probably only I noticed. But that was enough for now. As we took down the tents and loaded up our gear, Lucas caught my eye once. Just once. It wasn't a question, or a secret, or even a promise. Just, here I am star. And I felt it in my chest like a held breath finally released. We didn't talk about what had happened the night before. Not explicitly. But when we stopped by the river one last time before hiking out, just the two of us, he pulled me aside. The others kept walking. The jungle closed in around us. I don't know what this looks like back home, he said quietly, eyes on the water. I don't even know what I look like back home, sometimes. I nodded. Same. He turned to me, brows knit in that way he had when he was feeling too much. But I don't want to lose whatever this asterisk is. I looked down at my feet, then up at him. We don't have to name it yet. A beat passed. Then, but maybe we don't have to hide it either. Lucas's shoulders softened. His smile was a small thing, but full of light. Yeah, he said. I'd like that. He didn't kiss me again. He didn't need to. Instead, he reached out and laced his fingers with mine as we walked back to the others. And when Alex looked back at us and raised a curious eyebrow, Lucas didn't let go. Back in the city, things weren't cinematic. There were no sweeping gestures or declarations. Just text messages that stretched long into the night. Small visits. Coffee. Occasional silences that no longer felt dangerous. We weren't trying to become something overnight. We were just trying to be star. Some days, I still found myself retreating. Old habits die slow. But then I'd remember the feel of Lucas's hand in the river, steady and patient, and I'd breathe again. I'd reach back. Because for once, I didn't have to carry the silence alone. Because sometimes love isn't loud. It's a glance across a campfire. A hand offered in the dark. A truth whispered between river stones. I still think about that moment, his fingers brushing mine in the tent, neither of us pulling away. How quiet it was. How full. It wasn't love. Not yet. But it was the beginning of something I couldn't stop feeling. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's everything.